You are welcome to another video of the course F5 BIG-IP LTM. In this section, we are going to discuss and configure F5 BIG-IP Stateful HA or failover, in which the connections are replicated between BIG-IP devices. Therefore, active connections are not disrupted during failover. In the previous two sections, we discussed and implemented a stateless active standby HA with F5 BIG-IP devices, where connection tables are not replicated to the standby device. With this configuration, active connections are disrupted during failover, but new connections can be created. In this section, we add a stateful functionality to our HA configuration, where connection tables are replicated from the active BIG-IP to the standby BIG-IP. Therefore, in the event of a failover, the current connection can still be active and no connection is lost. To configure and test a stateful HA, we first create a virtual server with SSH service so that we can connect to the SSH server using active BIG-IP and then check whether the connection is replicated to the standby BIG-IP or not. I've already created nodes, pool members, and virtual server. Just to review, so we have to create 3 nodes. I've already created server 1, server 2, and server 3 with the IP address 10, 111, 112, and 113, and pool with the SSH service and including all 3 members here. Server 1, port 22, server 2, and server 3 all in the port SSH. And finally, virtual server, which I've already created with no special configuration, with the IP address, virtual IP address 2100 and virtual service SSH. And it is binded to the pool that I've created in the resource section, SSH server pool. In the first step, I didn't activate a stateful capability in the virtual server, just a normal virtual server to check if the active connections are replicated into a standby BIG-IP or not. Now we connect to the virtual IP with the IP address 2100 and the service SSH. And we will connect it to the one of the SSH servers configuring the pool members 10, 111, 12, or 13 with the username VMware and password VMware that we have configured in the first lessons of the course. And then now I'm connected to the third SSH server through the connecting to the virtual IP. So virtual server is working properly. Now I'm going to check if the connections are replicated to the standby BIG-IP or not. First, I will check inside the active BIG-IP. The BIG-IP 1 is the active BIG-IP. With the command show cease connections, but grep only the connections with port 22. It is the BIG-IP 2. We see that there is no connection here. That means the connection is not replicated to the standby BIG-IP. But also I will check in the active BIG-IP, show cease connections, and then grep port 22. And you see that there is a connection from the IP address 2175 and the destination IP 2100, which is the virtual IP, and 22, which is the service, is connected to the third SSH server. So in the normal virtual server configuration, which we don't enable a stateful capability, the connections are not replicated from the active BIG-IP to the standby BIG-IP. To enable a stateful capability, we now enable connection mirroring in the virtual server. By default, connection mirroring option is not displayed in the virtual server setting. However, if you change the configuration to advanced, Then a new option will appear, connection mirroring. If I search mirroring, and when you enable connection mirroring, you notice a message that activating option may degrade performance. We enable the connection mirroring only in the active BIG-IP, and we will synchronize the new configuration to the standby BIG-IP, and then update, and then the configuration changes is pending to be synchronized to the standby BIG-IP. So I will tell from BIG-IP 1 to all devices sync. The state has changed from changes pending to in sync. Sync, that means connection mirroring is also enabled in the virtual server in the standby BIG-IP. To advance and search mirroring, you see the connection mirroring is also activated in standby BIG-IP. Then we test again whether the connection table is replicated from the active BIG-IP to standby or not. We create a new SSH connection, exit, and PuTTY, connect to the virtual IP 2100 with the username VMware and password VMware. Again, this time we are connected to the second 10.112. We are connected to virtual IP, but to the second SSH server. Now, in the active BIG-IP, I check again the active connections. We see that there is an active connection to the second SSH server, and this time also we check in a standby BIG-IP and it's expected to appear here. Also, you can see the connection is replicated to the standby BIG-IP. That means that if we shut down the active BIG-IP, the SSH connection is expected not to be lost and to remain active. Let's check together. Now the SSH connection is active, and I will go to the active BIG-IP, which is BIG-IP 1, which is active BIG-IP, and then in the CentOS environment, and then shut down. And now the BIG-IP 1 is shut down. If we check the status, I'm not able to connect to active BIG-IP anymore, but now the active BIG-IP has changed to the second BIG-IP. And if we check the SSH connection is still working. That means the connection is not lost. To complete a stateful HA discussion, it is also possible to enable persistence table mirroring when the persistence feature is enabled on the virtual server. For example, if in the profile sections persistence, for example, if you have enabled already source address persistence on the virtual server, here there is an option mirror persistence that you have to enable mirror persistence in persistence configuration to ensure that users are connected to the same server as before failure. But persistence is now not activated in my virtual server, therefore I'm not going to enable this option.